Before you take your seat, I want to introduce the eulogist for today. It was assumed that Mama's last pastor and first child she birthed that was preaching would preach for her, but then it began to make more sense that the last seed she shared, who really has the greatest character, resemblance, and trait of Mama. Y'all know as Cloretta, we just call her Coco. She stands in need of your prayers. Not only is she going to share with us what God has given her to eulogize her mother, but this is also her first eulogy. And no tougher than to stand and declare than at such a time as this. So I'm asking, first of all, for every colleague of mine who know the weight of the moment, and every believer who knows the power of praise. Do me a favor and tell your neighbor, help make preaching easy. Because the truth of the matter is, if you don't need a word, I need a word. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to bring to you all the way from the metropolis of Lithia Springs, Georgia. I've been knowing her all her days. Let us receive the eulogist for the hour, none other than Elder Cloretta Deneen, baby Chandler.
Thank you all for showing such love to us in our time of need. Although we've been this way, thank you, just 2 years and a month ago, this one's about Mama. That makes things just a little bit hard. But with such honor and grace today, I don't take it for granted to have this opportunity to help lay my mama to rest. Whew. So yes, please pray. But God is going to be glorified. So if you would, as it has become our custom, as we honor God, before we break bread, to stand in reverence to his word. Be coming from the book of St. John, chapter 12, and just 2 verses. Starting with 24 and concluding with 25, I'll be reading from the Message Bible. And the word says, listen carefully. Unless a grain of wheat is buried in the ground, dead to the world, it is never any more than a grain of wheat. But if it is buried, it sprouts and reproduces itself in many times over. In the same way, anyone who holds to life just as it is destroys that life. But if you let it go, reckless in your love, you'll have it forever, real and eternal. You may take your seats. Joe, if you would you take this for me? Thank you, sir. That's better. That's better. Now, I have to admit, when I first thought about doing Mama's eulogy, I immediately thought about the Proverbs 31 woman. You know where it starts in verse 10. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies, and the heart of her husband trusts in her. As you heard Miss Jean talk about Mama and Daddy, Daddy trusted her. So Mama, like the Proverbs 31 woman, worked willingly with her hands as a skilled seamstress, making several outfits for herself and her children. She would rise early in the morning to provide for her family. She considered a storefront one day, rented it out, and began her entrepreneurship with a shop known as Rosetta's Beauty Boutique. And her beauty services, they were good. She worked as a missionary, providing assistance to the poor and the needy. My mama was a strong woman, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, who by her presence commanded honor. When our father passed, it was Mama who was our rock, letting us know that everything was going to be all right. She was not idle. As long as she had the strength to go, you best believe she went. We termed her the go-go gal. Mama didn't like to stay at the house to talk. With all of her many talents and her gifting abilities, she was just always on the go. So for those Marvelous Light Teens, if you're trying to figure out why is he always on the go, he got it honestly. And like that Proverbs 31 woman, her children rose up and called her blessed. Many daughters, many ministers' wives, many mothers, many entrepreneurs. They have done well, but let me tell you, my mama excelled them all. For she feared the Lord. And she taught her children, grandchildren, mentees, and several generations to also fear the Lord. She embodied the virtuous woman to a T. Because Mama didn't just talk about it. My mama, she lived it. She was beautiful inwardly as well as outwardly. So much so that when Daddy saw her Miss Kansas City call photo, he drove 600 miles just to say hello. $600 miles. And with every mile he was taking with him the conviction of faith and hope that this personification of loveliness would, after a 2-week courtship, become his wife. That's what I wanted to preach about. But one morning, as I was contemplating today's message, God said, talk about the seed that falls down to the ground and how that seed produces a harvest. So if you don't mind, just for a few more minutes, we're going to talk about Rosetta's harvest. In the Christian community, when we talk about a seed falling down to the ground, many times we are speaking figuratively. We're talking about mortifying the deeds of the flesh, laying aside our personal wants, desires, and living according to the Spirit. In other words, we are making intentional choices that glorify God and not ourselves. You may have noticed as you read through Mom's obituary that the Miss Kansas City Call was a preliminary contest to the Miss America pageant, meaning as the winner, Mama was positioned to represent the call as the first black woman eligible to enter the Miss America pageant. That was a potential avenue that could have brought Mama national recognition and historical fame if she had continued that path. If being a nationwide beauty queen was not her cup of tea, she could have taken her hairstyling capabilities as a graduate of the Madam C.J. Walker's Beauty College and become a much sought-after hair designer of all ethnicities and cosmetologist instructor. She did it in Pueblo, Colorado. She could have did it all around the world if that was her choice. If that wasn't satisfactory, Mama most certainly was talented enough in her first soprano diva voice to pursue a singing career as a renowned gospel artist or a much celebrated and outstanding talent in the world of opera. She had the ability. But my point is, Mama had options, choices. Even in the era that she grew up in, Mama could have chosen to do something for herself that would have changed the trajectory of her life. In our text, Jesus, by way of parable, in an illustrative story, is informing and preparing his disciples for something major that was going to change the trajectory of their lives. That when he, like the grain of wheat, falls into the ground and dies, number one, he wasn't going to stay dead. Jesus, like the grain of wheat, will rise again, but not in the same state he started in. He, like the grain of wheat, will be transformed. When Jesus, like the grain of wheat, is transformed, he will rise bigger, better, stronger, bringing with him, like the grain of wheat, an abundance of new grain ready to be harvested. But Mama decided it would be more beneficial to die to self and become a matriarch, matrimonially joined with a patriarch, who together would raise a 4-tier generation that in their maturation would gather, train, and change current and future generations. This Rosetta's harvest, after 77 years of teaching and training, comforting and caring, loving and praying over her seed, the matriarch seed, like the grain of wheat, will rise again. Not in the same state, but in a glorified body. She, like the grain of wheat, has produced fruit in her children and her children's children to the 3rd and 4th generation. It is in David, her birthday gift, who carries on her eye for elegance and fashion. It is the master musician, graduate of the Berklee College of Music. He also carries the mantle of a director extraordinaire and minister of music. This is Rosetta's harvest. It is in Loretta, who carries on the personification of loveliness and beauty, fulfilling Mama's dreams of becoming an actress when she was chosen to be a permanent lead cast member of the TV series Fame, and starring in numerous professional plays and musical productions thereafter. I'm talking about Rosetta's harvest. It is in James. You may know him as overseer, as pastor, but Mama knew him as James Ellington Chandler, who carries on the recording artist, psalmist, composer, and writer with 3 recorded albums, phenomenal musical talent, and you know it, vocal range. I'm talking about Rosetta's harvest. But she didn't stop there. See, because now it is in Kelly, the grafted wheat, who carries on Mama's poise and elegance and grace and style and class. What I call the first lady's meekness. Rosetta's harvest. But I can't leave myself out. I carry on the manifestation of Mama's prophetic dream of a woman standing in her image, preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ unapologetically. This is Rosetta's harvest. Rosetta's harvest is ripe and just getting started. For eyes have not seen and ears have not heard all that God has in store for Rosetta's harvest. Because you see, it has yet to be accomplished in Kayla, in JC, in Jonathan, in Lauren, in Maddox. We ain't seen nothing yet regarding Rosetta's harvest. All I can say now is, Mama, you kept the faith. Mama, you have finished your course. It is time for you to take your rest. Adorn your crown for a life well lived. I hear the voice of the Lord say, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Well done, you fulfilled your course. You ran your race. Come on in and take your seat. Come on in and wear your crown. Come on in and walk the streets of gold. Come on, Rosetta. I need you to head up heaven's choir. Hey! So family, I just want to encourage you that our mother is all right and that everything will be all right. No more crying. No more pain for Rosetta. No more sickness. I've heard the voice of God say, lay down, weary one. Lay down, and I will give you rest. Rosetta's